Okay, so let's get into a few sententiae here. As always, you'll work on the others on your own. Ubi illas nunc videre possum. Our verb, of course, is possum. I am able. But without even looking at the rest of the sentence, Wheelock clues us in that this is a question by giving us a question mark. So I guess we should start, am I able? Possum, of course, needs a complementary infinitive. Where is it? It's right here. Videre. Am I able to see? Now maybe we should have a look at ubi, or we should have looked at that right away perhaps. This, of course, is a question word, and in case you forgot what it means, there's an old joke that I'm going to tell you now that you will want to forget, but we won't be able to. The upside, though, is that you will never forget what ubi means. So here it is. Semper ubi sub ubi. Always where, under, where. Har, har, har. Anyway, you won't forget what ubi means. So, where am I able, took up a little room there, but okay, where am I able to see? Now what do we do with illas? This, of course, is illa, illa, illud. What gender, case, and number are we looking at here? Well, the A indicates that it's feminine. The S indicates that it's accusative plural. But we don't have a noun to go with it. But we know what substantive adjectives are like, right? This is the same thing. You could write something like ubi, instead of illas, right? Ubi awaras. Nunc videre possum. Where am I able to see now the greedy women? This works the same way, but now it's just where am I able to see those women? Oh, and I forgot about nunc. Where am I, let's say, where am I now able to see those women? That sounds a little creepy, but Terence, I should say, bit about Terence perhaps, because we've been reading Sententiae adapted from his text, but you probably don't know anything about him. Just very quickly, he was an ancient playwright who wrote comedies. Basically, he and a fellow named Plautus wrote the ancient Roman equivalents of sitcoms, little family dramas that have happy endings. It's fun to read. Okay, let's skip to number 5. Solus, hunc, iuvare potes. So, where's the verb? Of course, it's potes. You are able. Now, of course, we need an infinitive, and here it is, iuvare. Do you remember what it means? Well, it's to help. You are able to help, and I think it might help here. Of course, with potes, it's you are able, but I think we might write in the implied to here. I think it'll help us. It'll particularly help us to see what this solus is. It's masculine, nominative, and singular. So if we assume that the to here is a man, then it's only you, or you alone. Only you are able to help, and then hunc, masculine, accusative, singular. And again, just like with illas in the last sentence, we would really want to say illas feminas, those women, but you don't need the feminas, just we see that that's feminine accusative, so those women. Same thing here. What we'd really want to see is hunc virum or something, but help this man. Because it's masculine, you don't really need any other word there. Number 6. Poena istius unius hunc morbum civitatis relevabit sed periculum semper remanebit. You'll notice that we have a conjunction here, said. So we might divide the sentence there and tackle the part before said first. The verb? It's relevabit. Clearly, thank goodness, a future of the first conjugation, not the third. Thank goodness. Wheelock glosses relevare for us. To relieve or diminish. So something will relieve. This is a third person singular, so what will relieve? What could be nominative singular here? The only possible candidate I see is Poena, since the other nouns are all in different cases. Since we see a genitive attached to it, we might as well translate that right away too. This is one of those irregular forms of unus, una, unum, unius. It's irregular because unus generally conjugates like a second declension, but the genitive singular and dative singular look like the third declension. So this is genitive, unius. And the word it goes with is istius, which is iste, right? And the genitive too, of course. So far we have the punishment, and I guess I'll have to give myself some new room here, the punishment of this one guy, or this one man, I guess I should say. The punishment of this one man, and we might also say here, this one guy you got there, because it's iste, not just illa. The imagery, I think, is that the iste, well, a fellow named Catiline, by the way, and Catiline was somebody who tried to assassinate Cicero and overthrow the Roman state. I think the imagery here is that Catiline, the iste, is standing nearby, maybe close to someone. So Cicero is pointing at that guy and saying, Poena istius unius, that one guy right there with you. So what will the punishment relieve? What we have here is hunc morbum civitatis. Morbus is masculine accusative, and so is hunc. So it will relieve this sickness. The punishment of this one man will relieve this sickness, and then the genitive, civitatis, of the state, and then the said, but, and let's continue down here, but periculum semper remanebit. The verb, of course, here is remanebit after said. Another mercifully straightforward future. But something will always remain. So this is also third person singular, a he, she, or it. That is the verb. And here's the it. Periculum, the danger. But the danger will semper always remain. Okay, how about number 7? He enim de exitio huius civitatis et totius orbis terrarum cogitant. So again, we have here a conjunction in the middle of the sentence again, et. But I only see one verb here, which will have to get us through both sides of et. It's cogitant, of course, cogitare, to think. So cogitant, they think. But do we see a subject that could be a they subject? And yeah, it's he, which is to say masculine, nominative, and plural of hic, haec, hoc. These men think. These men think. And then what do they think about? Well, that's what de will tell us. Oh, and enum, by the way, is postpositive. So in English, we'd probably want to translate it before the he. So for these men think, in fact, I'm going to start up here again. For these men think about what? About de exitio, about the destruction. Huius civitatis, genitive singular of any gender, so of this state, the destruction of this state. Then we get to the et, and this is the funny part, One conjunction takes these guys from being Benedict Arnold to being Lex Luthor. And of the whole totius orbis terrarum, and of the whole world. For these men think only about the destruction of this state and of the whole world. By the way, there's something interesting to comment about this orbis terrarum word. It means the globe of the earth, or the globe of the lands, really. This terrarum is genitive plural of terra, of land. So the globe of the land. And you see here, just by looking at the Latin word for the whole world, that the Romans, and the Greeks before them too, of course, were quite aware that the earth is a sphere. The thing about Columbus discovering that the world is round is kind of a bit of misinformation. The idea being that Columbus was right while everyone else was wrong. In fact, Columbus was wrong. That is, Columbus thought that the world was smaller than the typical estimate. And the typical estimate, even back in his day, at the end of the Middle Ages, was more or less correct. But Columbus thought that was wrong. He thought the world was actually smaller than that, which is why he thought you could get from Europe to India by heading west. He was wrong about that, but I guess historian, or I say popular historiography, likes to think of Columbus being right about something. So they say he was right about the world being round, not as opposed to flat. But everyone knew that the world was round, and they had known it for 1,000 years, or actually more than 1,000 years. Anyway, just a side note. End of rant. So finally, let's look at the verses from Martial again. Well, we didn't have to look far for the verb now, did we? Here it is, habet. Habet Africanus. And Africanus is a name. And the original Africanus is an interesting character in the history of the mid-Roman Republic, right around the times of the Punic Wars. But obviously, this isn't so much a name as a cognomen or agnomen that turned into a hereditary name. So what did the original Africanus do to get the name Africanus? Well, he played a decisive role in conquering Carthage, or defeating Carthage, which is in Africa. Okay, we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here, but Africa today is an entire continent. The Romans thought of Africa as North Africa west of Egypt, and, well, between Egypt and Morocco, and even between Libya and Morocco. So kind of Libya, Algeria, Tunisia was the Roman province of Africa. Anyway, that's how the original Africanus got the cognomen, by playing this decisive role in the defeat of Carthage. And this is a pretty common practice, at least among the Roman elite, that a person who played a decisive role in conquering a particular people or territory, then you got to take the name of that people, or include that in your name. So that's how Africanus got the cognomen. There's also Germanicus and his descendants, who Germanicus helped to conquer the Germans, or some Germans at least, nowhere near all of them. In fact, one of Caligula's names was Germanicus, because he was the son of Germanicus. Then there's Britannicus, which would have originally been the agnomen of the Emperor Claudius, but was passed down to his son, who didn't live past his teenage years. Well, Nero was the emperor after Claudius, so you can probably guess what happened to young Britannicus. Anyway, back to the sentence here. This isn't the Africanus. This would be one of his descendants. And so as Africanus has. And here Wheelock tells us to translate miliens as millions, i.e. lots of money. So we'll just go with that. Has millions. Tamen is nevertheless. So nevertheless, captat, capto, captare. This also, of course, goes back to the subject, Africanus. So nevertheless, and I think Wheelock glosses this as to hunt or to seek. Nevertheless, he hunts. That is, he hunts for more money. Now the second line, the verb dat, do, dare. We're looking for a he, she, or it subject. And Here it is. It's a she, Fortuna. And I'm just going to leave this as Fortuna because we're not talking about abstract luck here, but a goddess. Fortuna, then dot, gives to whom? Well, Fortuna gives. Normally, we'd want to find an accusative noun here. What's being given? Instead, we have an adverb, nimis, too much. Fortuna gives too much to whom? Well, multis, the dative plural masculine, to many. And we might put in parentheses here, to many men, really, is what he means. Then satis is, of course, enough. Enough, and then we have nolus. But this is one of those irregular third declension looking dative forms from nullus. So it's kind of irregular. So enough to nobody. Okay, so look at the others on your own, and we'll talk about them in conferencing.